Hello, this is Chris again. Now I'm going to show you how to set up your drone for 3D flying. First thing is, take off all your propellers because you're going to be messing around with the ESCs and they're going to be powered up. You don't want the thing going wild on your bench. Okay, now that you've done that, take your quad, plug in the power, and then plug in the USB cable to your computer. Okay, now you have to have the program BLHELIsuite32 because I recommend the BLHELI32 ESCs, and this is because you have more resolution, so you have better control of your motors. So once you've gotten BLHELIsuite32 and you've got it running, you can read your ESC setup. And what you want to do is, normally when you look at motor direction in BLHELIsuite on a conventional quad setup for non-3D, is you will either have normal or reversed, depending on what you've done with your motors to correct for your wiring of your motors to the ESC. So the really confusing part is, if you have normal, then you want to change it to, believe it or not, bidirectional 3D reverse. If you've set up your quad so you have reversed on your motor, and you want to set it up to bidirectional 3D. This is an issue with 3D quads every time you use BLHELIsuite32. That is, if you have your conventional motor configuration where the tips of the prop are coming toward the camera when you're flying. So in other words, normal quad configuration. If you've got it in normal, you want to go to bidirectional 3D reverse. If you had it in reverse, then you want to go to just this one here, bidirectional 3D. And you want to go through and you want to set up all of your motors based on that. So normal goes to bidirectional reverse, and reverse goes to bidirectional 3D. I'm not going to do this next step, but I'll talk about it. When you've gone through all of your motors, then you want to write the setup to all of your motors. At that point, you'll then disconnect and everything will reset in your ESCs. This is why you take your props off, because apparently sometimes that will make your props go crazy. So that's how you set it up using BLHELIsuite32. Those are the basics. Thank you. Okay, the next thing you want to do is set up Betaflight to work with your quad. So plug the quad back in and connect in Betaflight. I'm skipping over a lot of Betaflight details because probably most of you have done a lot of this stuff, and so this is fairly familiar. Okay, the next thing you want to do is go to the configuration and click this box that says 3D ESC motor features. Usually it's like this in Betaflight, but if you click it, you have to go. So it does this, and now you've got your 3D set up. Then you save and reboot. I would like to also point out that you still want to have air mode. That might be a question for some of you. The machine flies much better in air mode. So save and reboot. The next thing is going to the CLI. You want to set up the small angle to be 180 degrees. Why? Because a lot of times the drone will not fly if your small angle is only, I don't know, whatever the default is. So whenever you try to rearm your drone and you're upside down on the ground, you won't be able to fly away. Well, you like to start flying when you're upside down sometimes, so you really should do that. So in the CLI, you can see what your small angle is. You can go get small angle, and it will show the small angle. In this case, I've already set it to 180 degrees. The default is 25. If you want to set it to 180 degrees, go set small angle equals 180. And now it's set to 180. Now you can take your drone off upside down. The next thing you're going to want to do is save this. Save your configuration. So now it's saved and your drone will take off or arm upside down. Okay, now one more thing you have to do is set up 3D in your drone. So if you use Betaflight configurator, go to the modes section and you'll see, because you clicked the 3D switch on the configuration page, that now you have this one feature, disable / switch 3D. And if you want to specify which control on your remote is used to activate 3D, you go and you add a range, and you can see I've already added a range, and I selected aux 1. That's my preference. That's the back left switch on the remote generally. And I've set a range for disabling 3D of the low positions on the switch. When I pull the switch forward, I get into this range, and that's when 3D is enabled. So when you turn on your quad, you still have to specify if it's in 3D or not, and that is controlled by the 3D switch that you set up with this configuration. So then when you're done with that, you would save it. Okay, so now I've got the quad hooked up to a battery and the USB plugged back into the quad. I'm going to test the motors. So under the motor tab, you'll see there's something a little bit different here. Now, no prop movement is now at a neutral value of 1500. This is because when you're flying 3D, the throttle has to be centered, not at the bottom, to be off, for the props to be off. So it looks a little weird. All these bars are in the middle and it says 1500 behind all of the indicators. Now, of course, you know you have to go in and click this I understand the risks thing when you're setting up and testing your motors. And now we're ready to check the motors. So I'm going to get away from this screen and show you what to expect with the motors. First, I'll be checking motor number 1, and I'll move the slider up and down with the arrow keys on the computer. Okay, so here's motor 1. I'm going to bring the slider up just a little bit. So now I've got it going forward. We're looking at the left rear prop, and you can see the prop motor is spinning in the right direction. Now I'm going to go back through 1500 to something just under 1500, and you can see now this right rear motor is spinning away from the back of the quad, or it's spinning counterclockwise. This is reverse, or when you bring your throttle below 1500. So now if a prop was on that, the thrust would be blowing the air that way, up. That's what you want when you're upside down. And now, as a final check, turn on the quad, turn on the remote, now here, this is in normal mode. Now if I enable 3D and arm, it won't arm until you're at 1500, in other words mid-throttle. I'm going to go above and below center throttle, and switching back and forth you should get this behavior. So that's ready to get props and start flying. Good luck with that. Okay, now you're all set. Let's get ripping.